Hello, hello. Leslie Urbis here, present today with day one. Day one is going to be jam-packed and full of a bunch of stuff that you've never heard before. So if you are present, please, please, please drop a hashtag live, hashtag replay. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to jump on as I kind of get myself set up here. I got engrossed in doing some really awesome things for this training right before. So here I am present in my kitchen. Why? Because I just feel like if I'm going to talk about food and nutrition, I should be present here in my kitchen, right? Well, anyways, again, if you are watching this, hashtag live, hashtag replay, if for some odd reason there's a streaming delay, I apologize. You will all get this replay somewhere in the mix. So again, I certainly hope that you're having a great day. As we go along, please feel free to ask questions or do anything that you need. But remember, if you watch this, hashtag live, hashtag replay, whenever it is that you are watching. Okay, outside of that, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the training today. A couple of things of note that I want you to know is that if you do have a notepad, take notes. If you haven't registered yet, please feel free to let me know and I can shoot you the link because there is a little bit of a notes page that we can kind of go along and you can see things. But today what I want to do is bring you into the awareness of where it is that your diet is failing you. So ultimately, that's where we're going to start. And what I want to start with is a little bit of a visualization. Okay. So what I want you to do is personally think in your brain, what is it that you want with your diet, with your eating, with your food, with everything that you do? What is it that you want? Okay. So when I say that, what I mean is that you maybe made some New Year's goals, right? Okay, and let's face it, it's like what, March 22nd? And you may be sitting at maybe approaching them or maybe nowhere near. So I want you to really think about what is your ultimate goal? Like if today were December 31st, 2022, what would be the picture you want in your head? Is it you want to be skinnier? Is it that you want to drop the 10 pounds? Is it that you want to be in food heaven? Is it that you want to stop being emotionally controlled by food? Is it that you know that the food emotion code is your answer and you need some clarity on this? What is it? Maybe it's a little hard for you to envision right now. So what I want to do is tell you a little bit about my personal story. One, of how I got myself here, and two, of how I created the food emotion code. So I want to start with that I was a typical dieter, but not when everybody else was a typical dieter. Back when I was in high school, two major events happened to me within the first week of entering high school. And that was the first thing, my high school football coach, my high school softball coach told me I would never play varsity because I was too big. Now, for those of you that don't know me, when I just got into high school, I was a normal, healthy weight, like legitimately a normal, healthy weight. However, I wasn't skinny. So what I mean by skinny is, people that are just really skinny, I was normal, healthy weight. You couldn't see my skin. You couldn't see my bones. And I didn't sprint or run super fast like other people could on our team. So she told me I was basically too fat to play varsity and that it would just never happen. So a little bit upset about that because I love softball. I moved on with my life. But then I also started classes, right? So high school, you go to a new school, you meet new people. I went to an all exclusive high school that was just for girls. No, it's not a boarding school. It's very common in St. Louis, Missouri. And I had a class with this girl, like multiple classes, like I think like 4 out of our 6 classes we were together. And I really enjoyed hanging out with her. And so when Friday night came, I said, hey, you want to hang out this weekend? And she was like, oh, Leslie, I'm sorry. We can't hang out. You're just not skinny enough to hang out with us. 2 hits, 1 week, mind completely blown. I'd never had any of these things happen to me before. So I'd like to say that right then and there, I decided to develop some eating disorder or something, but no, I didn't. Okay. From there, I continued to go through high school and do every diet because that's what I watched my mother do. It was like, try this diet or exercise here or try this new thing or try this new drink. I remember there being like a drink that you could take that like last 30 minutes before you went to bed and it helped you lose weight, but really all it did was stop you from eating. So you lost weight. I think there was like a big, massive lawsuit or something around it. I don't know. That's too young for me to remember. I did Weight Watchers. I did Atkins. I did a ton of things back in my teens when your metabolism is supposed to be like pepping and going and just cheering you on, right? But I wasn't getting the result that I wanted. And I pretty much stayed the same weight in high school until my junior year when I think my doctor put me on birth control and I like gained 15 pounds. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm going to diet. And I started following all these other different types of diets and it was up and down and yo-yo and around and around. It's like, you're 17 years old. You don't really have this like clue to want to diet. But there's two things there that I pinnacly want to point out to you. One, I had it innately in me to do this because of my parents. Because I watched my mother do this, I was more subjected to potentially going on a diet. So right now in your head, if you had diet or fat worry when you were in high school, when you were in college, at any point in time, if you've had any of that, you are predisposed to constantly chronically diet. You've set up your brain to say, you know what? We don't lose weight. We just diet. We don't lose weight. We just diet. Okay, we are going to do this intermittent fasting thing and we are going to get a result and we are going to lose the weight. Okay, so you go into it with that mentality and potentially you lose the weight, but somewhere along the line, you're no longer dieting. So your brain sabotages you into needing another diet. So you've set yourself up from this, just one, by watching family, one by potentially if you were overweight when you were younger and they put you on these different types of dieting things that you had to do, that would also set you up for it, okay? Now, as I continued onward and I decided that I was going to be a dietitian and I went to college, I started to slowly adapt my life into this food emotion code, which I now live by. So when I started it, it was, very similar. I'll kill myself in the gym. I'll cut a bunch of calories. I'll try to be like extreme dieter, like you see everybody do, right? And none of it worked. None of it worked. Like the scale didn't really change. I felt really awful, working out 3.5 hours a day and like having a saltine for a snack isn't going to get you very far, right? So at 18, I decided that I was going to take things into my own hands and really start to change my life. And that is what you're going to get in this program, is those beginning steps that I took in order to see a loss, okay? But there are a few things that I want you to process right now. And if you're taking notes, I want you to write them down. And that is, number one, were you raised in a family where you had to chronically diet, where weight was a thing, where the scale was a bad thing, where your mom or your dad was on or off diets, where it was like, oh, we need to work out again or we need to not work out again? Because all of these things are a part of you. Were you raised in a house that it was like, oh, we're just fat. Oh, we're just lazy. Oh, I have no motivation to do that. Because we become our parents, right? So if we have this ingrained in us, we're doing this. Now, I want to twofold this. If you're a parent, you're doing it to your kids. You're setting them up for that. One of the things my daughter and I do when we weigh ourselves, because I weigh myself every once in a while, is we get off and we dance. Like, woohoo, weight went up or the scale changed or whatever, right? Like, it doesn't matter. I want her to have a good representation of that, okay? So what I want you to know, number one is it ingrained in you? Because if it is ingrained in you, the more you chronically diet, the more you're going to see that up and down solely because of that. And we're going to get into why that is a metabolism killer as we continue on, okay? So biggest keys I want you to take away from that is that, one, my story comes from taking other people's opinions and letting it get me. Two, a chronic history of dieting. And three, the fact that I wasn't really controlling anything. I was manipulating all these outside sources. I'll follow Weight Watchers. I'll do keto. I'll take this supplement. I'll do XYZ. But I wasn't truly getting the result that I wanted. Okay? All right, let's continue onward. I want to jump into one more story before we go forward because it's great. Leslie did it. Who really cares that Leslie did it? She created the food emotion code. Of course, she can follow through. So I want to talk about Kristin. Kristin is one of my clients. She's currently in the program that I run called Beat the Scale, which is the food emotion code. And when Kristin and I first started talking last August, one of the biggest things that halted her from joining was she had gotten 100 pounds of weight loss off, but she knew that she was so addicted to the dieting and the restriction that something had to happen. She needed to free herself of this. So when we sat down and we started to talk, two things went through her mind. What about the time and what about the money? And instead of using that as an excuse, she helped herself by realizing that she could spend the rest of her life and all the time and all the money on every portion control, on every diet, on every new supplement, on every little thing that everybody was giving to her. Or she could take her time and investment now and really start to grow herself. So Kristin, who had lost 100 pounds before she started with me, joined the program in August. She has since lost, I think 20 more pounds is what it was. She's at a weight that she wants to be. She's no longer portion controlling. The scale doesn't control her. She's getting more muscle. She's feeling more tone, and she's able to control her emotions. Yes, she understands that chocolate is a trigger of her. When she has a bad day, chocolate will trigger her and she will want to eat more and more of it. So consciously, she can say, yes, I want that piece of chocolate, or no, I don't really want that piece of chocolate. I'm just having a bad day. Let me go do X, Y, or Z instead, because of what she's learned through the food emotion code. So the key to this is that she also had chronic diet history in there. She was overweight most of her life. She'd try every diet. You know, she worked at a school, and at the school, I don't know, I mean, I hear this from a lot of teachers. It's always like, this teacher's doing this and this teacher's doing that. And maybe it's the same way for you in your office. It's like, oh, this person's on this diet or this person's on that diet, or, oh, I'm passing on the donuts this week because I'm doing keto. And then next week you see them eat 3 donuts, right? So all of those things kind of come into play. Your environment is shaping the result that you're getting, okay? And as it does, you're taking it in. And as you take it in, that will control your emotions around food. It will control how you diet. It will control your metabolism. It will control how you respond to other people. It will control how you parent. It will control how your kids learn to diet. Incredible amounts there, okay? So from Kristin's story, what I want you to hear is that, yes, she did lose 100 pounds before joining, but she was so addicted to the diet process that if she would have stopped, she would have gone backwards. I remembered hearing her say that, like, if I stay on this path, I'll either go nuts from having to count everything, or I'll go backwards. So now I want you to ask yourself another question. How many times have you dieted and gone backwards? What does going backwards mean? Okay, it means I did keto and I lost 100 pounds. But then something happens and you can never pinpoint what it is, right? You never know what it is. You're just like, I don't know, just all of a sudden the weight started coming back. And I gained it all back. That's what I just need to do. I need to go back and I need to get that diet, okay? I want you to pause for a second and think. How many times have you had that story? While I replenish the water. How many times have you had the story of, well, I did it and I lost it? Or how many times have you gone, I'm going to restrict, I'm going to count everything, I'm going to portion control, I'm going to do all these habits and it's all going to work out for me and I'm going to get it, okay? How many times do you have that? So in recalling your history, were you set up for this? Number 2, are you chronically set up for this for all the times you've cycled through everything? Okay. Feel free to drop any comments if you'd like to. Okay. If you're watching still, drop a hashtag live, hashtag replay. And of course, feel free to drop, I've done these diets. I get results with this, but then I stop. Okay. Now let's discuss why this happens. Okay. I'm going to bring in a little bit more of my story, right? So my sister Lisa died on December 26th of 2016. And I remember that day like the back of my hand. Obviously, I'm sure we would all, she was 36. And on that morning, I kind of was like channeling her, you know how people say that? Like, I swear I woke up all morning long. I was like, It's so weird the way she ended the text message last night. It's so weird the way things went. Just baffled, like really why, that's all I could think about all morning long. My husband and I were getting ready to go to the gym, and it was one of those days that like I was just like, I don't know why, but I just don't want to go to the gym. It's all I could think about. I was like, I never have a day where I just don't want to go to the gym. Why is it that I don't want to go to the gym? And all of a sudden, my husband like looked down at his phone. He was like, your mom called and left a message. And like he puts the phone up to his ear and he runs back upstairs. We're at my sister-in-law's house at the time. And I like chase him up the stairs, right? Come to find out I didn't have to work out, right? Because we had to get on a plane and go back home because my sister died. Now, why is that relevant? Because that is an emotional trigger, okay? An emotional trigger of losing a family member, okay? When you have that emotional trigger, everything that your body can do will emotionally trigger you to do those things, okay? So normally my emotional trigger is let's go take a walk or let's get outside or let's do something like that. But the emotional trigger at that point was like I physically couldn't get on a treadmill. I was crying, right? Like running on a treadmill and crying where you can't really see out of your eyes is not going to give you the result that you want. Maybe a black eye or a broken nose or something, right? So I was obviously not going to do that. So without me knowing, just my subconscious mind, I had trigger upon trigger upon trigger upon trigger that my brain went through until it could give me some sort of happy dopamine to get me to calm down a little bit, okay? So my husband and I went to the airport. We get to the airport. I think he had to go to the bathroom. I don't remember, but I was sitting at the bar by myself and I went to order a mimosa and I couldn't talk. I was physically unable to talk. And so I just kind of pointed to the menu at like what I wanted and then was like, I think I typed into my phone splash of OJ because I'm not a fan of too much orange juice in my mimosas. And I remember she walked back and she goes, it's on me. And who does that at the airport, right? Because those drinks at the airport are like $12, right? Okay. I'm just playing around with the money, but like you very rarely find somebody at the airport that gives you a free drink, right? So as I drank the mimosa, I was able to talk a little bit more because the mimosa could signal to me 2 days before, on the 24th, the last moments that I was with my sister on that morning of the 24th, not the last moments, but on that morning, one of the big triggers was as that she woke up, like I think I woke her up at 9 a.m. in the morning. And she was like, why are you up so early? I was like, it's 9 a.m. That's not early. And she said, well, it's 7 a.m. in LA, because that's where she lived at the time. I was like, well, it's 10 a.m. in Jacksonville, Florida, so I guess it's even later, right? So I said, but we're opening mimosas. Do you want one? So my brain could physically trigger that was a happy response the last time I was with Lisa, right? Because right now I'm imagining in my head, like my sister is gone, my family's a wreck, I'm the only one that wasn't there, I need to get back to my family, drama upon drama upon drama in my head. But my brain and your brains don't want to stay in the negative state. So they will do anything they possibly can to give you some sort of an emotional increase. Now, here's where food comes into play. Your food is an emotional increase. And people say, no, I don't eat that food anymore. I don't do that anymore. It doesn't matter. Think about the little kid in the ice cream. If you read my post a few weeks ago, okay? My daughter, when ice cream spills on the floor, is like, like hysterical wreck. It's like, it's okay, Lily, we'll get more ice cream, right? But if it's like an ice cream that she just got at the store and we have to go buy more or something like that, there's a whole emotional roller coaster there, right? Because the ice cream is delicious. Like the first time you ever ate something sweet, your brain went, ooh, that is delicious, right? I went from having breast milk or formula to now having like fruits and veggies, and you get that first bite of an orange and your brain's like, ooh, right? Like lots of parents will recollect that their children will eat a lot of like fruit over eating the vegetable. Why? It gives us a certain happy pill in our brain. So when you have a triggering event and your brain wants to boost you up a level, food can become the trigger. So this is why all of those other dieting processes don't work. Now, you can get addicted to the habits of tracking and portion controlling and things like that, right? Because you hear lots of people that are like, oh, I did this diet and I'm still doing it and blah, blah, blah. Maybe because they haven't had the emotional trigger yet, or the emotional trigger has only thrown them off for a day and not enough, okay? So what I want to get at is the 6 things that are stopping you from seeing the results with your current diet and why it is that the food emotion code becomes so important. Okay, so water again. Let's go into the first topic, which is a part of the food emotion code, and that is your metabolism. Your metabolism is linked to all of your dieting history. I know that stinks when I say that to you, but it's tied to all of your dieting history. Lots of people say, oh, I'm in my 40s, so it's harder. Like I'm pre-menopause or perimenopause or whatever it is they use nowadays. And then things like, oh, I'm in my 30s, so my metabolism slowed down, or I just don't work out like I used to, or run like I used to, or whatever it is that it is, right? We come up with some sort of excuse. We blame it on age, we blame it on hormones, we blame it on all these things. But guess what? There's a lot of underlying things going on there. So there's about 10 things that could be going wrong with your metabolism, and they're things that you are causing, but I'm going to start with just 3, and I really want you to think if any of these 3 are you, okay? The first one is the yo-yo diets. So very similar how I said that I was in high school and I had watched my mom yo-yo diet. So we tried the drink, and then we tried the Weight Watchers, and then we tried the Atkins, and then we went back to Weight Watchers, and then we did, I used to work out with her every day, and we do walk away the pounds in the front room, okay? Whatever it was. Have you yo-yo dieted? Now, what I mean by yo-yo dieting is that it's always that you're trying to get to something else. Maybe it yielded you a result, maybe it didn't, whatever. You're like, well, that didn't work for me, so let me go try the next thing. Or I like to call it like the MLM health coach, or a health coach that's out there. It's like, I'm doing this program and then maybe I have to change to the next program. Or I've done this program like Optavia or something and I do really well, and then I get to go from like my 5 and 1 to like my 3 and 3 or whatever it is. And they're willing to stay on it for life because it's giving them some sort of money, but you're tired of eating the same cardboard type snacks, right? Because it's not satisfying you anymore. Why? Because when you started it and the scale was like boom, 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 you're like, oh my God, the scale keeps falling. This is amazing. I'm doing so good. And then the scale doesn't fall as much, or you don't want to lose any more weight. And so eating those little snacks just aren't doing it for you anymore because you're not getting those emotional hits that you were getting from the scale. So now it's like, kind of every once in a while, sort of. And then without knowing it, it goes back up and you're like, oh, I got to do it again, right? Okay. Yo-yo diets. Go from one to the next to the next. I watch it all the time. Okay. You're probably following somebody. If you're wanting to weight loss, if you're wanting to diet, you're probably following somebody that does that. Okay. And you see them always have progress photos. You shouldn't always have progress photos. Progress photos should get stagnant at some point, because you should hit where your body's just at its comfort zone. So why do they always have progress photos? There's your answer. All right. So that's number 1, yo-yo dieting. That is destroying your metabolism. And if you've done it in your 20s, in your teens, in your 30s, and you never recovered from it, that's why in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you keep gaining weight. It's sort of like my weight goes up 5 pounds every year, or 10 pounds every 5 years, or 10 pounds every 10 years. When you're like, I don't get why the scale keeps creeping up. I weigh less today than I did in high school, okay? And I'm 36. So that has nothing to do with it. It has to do with reclaiming that metabolism. And the more you do the yo-yo, the less you have of your metabolism. Okay, second thing, you chronic diet. Here's what I mean by chronic dieting. You get the result. Let's say you do the Optavia plan, or you do the keto, and you get the 100 pounds off, and you're like, I got the 100 pounds off. I'm feeling good. Year 1, you keep it. Year 2, you keep it. Year 3, a little creeps on. Year 4, a little more creeps on. Year 5, a little more creeps on. Then all of a sudden you're like, how'd I get back to here? I got to do it again. And you finally get back into that mindset and you chronically diet and you lose it again. Okay. What is that? It's a metabolism destroyer. Because see, you haven't changed who you are. You haven't changed your basis of things. You haven't changed your emotions around food. Instead, you chronically put yourself through something. So the year that you're chronically putting yourself through something, you've changed your metabolism, and then your body just wants to go back to where it was before. Okay. So chronically dieting can be a cause of that. And the third thing is what I call the Monday through Friday yo-yo, where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe how bad I ate on the weekend. So I need to really do well this week. So you portion control everything and you plan everything out. You got everything going for you Monday through Friday. And then Friday comes along and somebody says, hey, you want to go get margaritas? And you're like, yes, I do. Sunday comes along, feel bloated again. I'm here again. And Monday through Thursday, you're back on par. That is a metabolism killer. People are like, I just don't understand. I do so well more days of the week than I mess it up. Yes, and on the other 2 days, your metabolism goes, give me all the food. Let me hold on tight to it because she's about to starve me again and I don't want to starve. Okay? Those are the top three things that are killing your metabolism. There are 7 other things that could be killing your metabolism. And what do we blame it on? We blame it on age. We blame it on hormones. Now, don't get me wrong. I cannot tell you that there is not really clinical proof behind that. Yes, hormones can be a thing. I don't want you to feel like that cannot be a thing, but that's what we all blame it on. Why? Because that's what we watched our parents do. Oh, it's just, this is what happens when you hit 40. This is what happens when you hit 50. This is what happens when you whatever. Really? Does it always? How are there women in their 80s that are more muscular than they were in their 20s? Really think about it. So what I want you to adapt there is, are any of those things, did you do any of those things, or are you currently doing any of those things to your metabolism? Because if so, you're answering the question of why you're not where you want to be. Okay. Now, the other 7 things are things that we talk about in the Beat the Scale program that I run and in the food emotion code that will help you so you can reclaim that metabolism. So in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, you're not hunting that down. Okay. Now, if that resonated with you, all I want you to do is drop a, wow, metabolism is a real thing. Okay. Just write metabolism in the chat or write #live, write whatever you want to let me know that you're still out there and that you know that it's important, that metabolism is such an important thing of helping us, okay? Now, I'd probably say I have about 10 minutes left, okay? Just so that way you guys know in case you're watching the time. The other part of this, the emotional part, these are the top 3 things emotional-wise that stop you from seeing results, okay? The first thing is that the food controls you, but you don't know it, okay? It's not like you know. So people say, okay, let's go with the donut, okay? So donuts are in the break room and you're like, oh God, I love donuts. I really love donuts. And my favorite donuts there, you know, the chocolate one with the sprinkles and it's got the circle in the middle because I don't really like chocolate long johns or something like that. I don't even know if that's what they're really called. That's what we call them in St. Louis. I haven't had a donut in years. Not because I don't want a donut, but because I just really don't enjoy eating a donut. I'll eat a funnel cake. Anyways, total side note. So the donut is present, okay? And you say, I'm not having that donut because I'm on a diet, okay? How much longer throughout the day do you think of the donut? And the next day when it's there, what do you have to say to yourself again? The voices in your head that talk to you about I should or I shouldn't eat, I should or I shouldn't do, that's food emotionally controlling you, okay? And you're like, yeah, but I didn't eat it. Doesn't matter. How much longer do you think about it? How much longer does that control your thoughts? How much do you really have to be like, I'm not eating the donut. 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 Look, there's still donuts at lunch. I'm not eating that donut, okay? It's not happening. The more and more you have to do that, you're talking to 2 parts of your brain, and it's letting you know that the one part of your brain, the habitual part of your brain is like, we eat donuts. Go get one. Go get one. And eventually you cave and you fall and you eat the donut, whether it's day 1, day 4, or day 14, because you are trying to break a piece of your brain that is literally like, no, that's who we are. It's sort of like when you wake up in the morning, do you pee or brush your teeth first? Okay. Some people do one or the other. You don't automatically swap it one day. Maybe if you really have to pee, then you would do that. That would be a different kind of thing. But every day you wouldn't swap it. You know, whatever way you go is who you are. You know, everybody has a different thing. Maybe the first thing you do is you go turn the coffee maker on, right? Or the coffee maker's automatic, so you put the pot in and then you go pee. You know, we all have something we do first, and we don't change our pattern every day just out of the blue, and eventually we go back, right? For the longest time, I tried to not put away the dishes before I worked out. It just never worked out for me. I had to put the dishes from drying the night before away so I feel good during the workout, because if not, the whole time during the workout I think about it. I'm like, I could literally get 4 minutes of my time back by waiting, but it doesn't work for me. I have to do it this way, Okay. It's just the way it does. Okay. So food controlling you is real. There's a lot of emotions tied to that come from a very long time ago that aren't something that you maybe developed 4 months ago. It developed before you were 7, 8, 9 years old. Okay. The second thing is it's habitual, meaning that somewhere in there, a certain emotion got tied to a food, okay? I like to use Rachel Hollis as my best example here. I don't know if any of you guys read the book, Girl Wash Your Face. I attribute that to the first book I ever read in a whole weekend. My daughter was brand new, 2 months old, and we were on vacation. And I just could not put this book down because it spoke a lot to a brand new mom, I felt like. So in this book, she talked about how when she had a really bad emotional day, she wound up eating a bag of Oreos, like the whole bag of Oreos. And then she repeated it a few more times. I'm kind of butchering the story because I don't remember it exactly. I haven't read it in a year or so. But when she talks about having to lose weight, there was a lot of food emotion there, okay? So I'm sure when Rachel Hollis still has a bad day, every once in a while she considers eating an Oreo, okay? She probably has some new ways of getting around that now, and because she's so much in the face of public, she doesn't allow herself to binge eat on Oreos because that would go against some of the things that she said, right? So there's a little bit more motivation there for that piece, but that's a different trigger there. However, the habitual process of I had a bad day, I go get chocolate, okay? So I always use my story of when I joined the military. I know this sounds kind of funny again, but I was 24 years old. I joined the military. I had to go up to Officer Development School in Rhode Island. It was a 5-week-long program. I had never spent more than 2 weeks away from my parents. And on week 4, starting week 4, I was hysterical. I hysterically cried all morning long. For anybody in the military, my senior chief at the time, who was definitely, he would allow us to say this, he was a redneck, PBR drinking, smoking senior chief. And that's really what we drew on the back of our shirt. I don't even know what happened to that shirt. That's so funny. Anyways, he was like, he looked at my division officer, who was also, she was prior military, and was like, you need to go take care of her. Take her somewhere and make her stop being hysterical. So she took me to the bathroom because we couldn't have phones. She handed me her phone and said, call somebody. I called my mom. Still to this day, I have no clue as to why she answers the phone. I'm hysterically crying in the stall. All I'm doing is crying. How she knew it was me, because moms are like that. Why she answered, because it was instinctual, right? And she's like, Leslie, it's okay. I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. It's all okay, right? She calms me down. I at least stop crying. I did still cry a couple of times during the day. But the moment we hung up the phone, I was like, I need chocolate. I need chocolate right now. I need it in my face and I want it. Thing is, I'm in officer development school. I can't have chocolate. I can't have dessert. I can't have snacks. I can't go to the vending machine. I'm controlled in all those instances. So for 72 hours, I had to sit with, why do I want chocolate so bad? And it was because when we would fall and get hurt when we were little and go through those motions, chocolate was typically presented, or ice cream, or some sort of sweetness was presented in our face. So when that happened, I was like, oh my goodness, I want chocolate because it's controlling me. So it was another layer in this food emotional code that I've developed, that just that trigger, right? So I don't give my kids that trigger because I consciously knew that was something of mine. So when they have that moment, I don't feed them chocolate, right? Now, you may be like, well, my mom never did that, but I still like chocolate when I'm having a bad day. Somewhere along the lines, when you couldn't get your mother's attention, you used chocolate yourself. Became like that Oreos, okay? So now that we figured that out, how do you erase it, right? We're going to get to those steps, but that's habitual, okay? The next thing is lack of emotional control. This means you are at work and somebody walks in your office and like, oh my God, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, okay. All right, this person's coming at me with a lot. I'm already overpressured. I'm not allowed to scream and yell. I'm not allowed to throw things. Right? We learn all these things. So you're not allowed to express yourself the way that is. As you internalize that, your emotions change on the inside. And without understanding that a triggered response happens, your brain says we must move to a happier level. Thus, we're going to go back to the break room and get the donut. Okay? Without you knowing, you have no clue. That's all background. Okay? That's your third one. There's about 7 other reasons why you emotionally eat too. Okay. So there's about 10 reasons why your metabolism is failing you and about 10 reasons why emotional eating is plaguing you. Now, people are like, oh, well, I don't emotionally eat. I eat when I'm bored, or I eat when I watch TV, or I eat when I do this. Guess what? All of those are emotions. Do you know why you emotionally eat when you're watching TV? Because you get bored? Because you want more entertainment. Okay. Now, how do you stop those things? We're going to get into that. So you got to come back for day 2. Okay. I've got a little bit of homework here. Okay. Like I said, we got about 5 more minutes left, but these are the things that's plaguing you. This is why Weight Watchers, Noom, all those other diets. This is why Kristin came to me with, I'm doing all these things and I've accomplished the weight loss, but I know I will fail. This is why I knew back then, after yo-yo dieting and starting my life as a dietitian and wanting to meet a certain thing, meet a certain aesthetic, that I had to change something. Because Noom, Weight Watchers, Beachbody, all of these diets come at you with your piece of paper. Do this, eat this, follow this, be this, okay? And you can habitually get yourself there, right? Like we've got books like Atomic Habits and things like this that help you to get your habits to be there. But even in Atomic Habits, he says you can habit track all you want, but eventually you'll want to stop because people don't want to track every number every day. You know, it's not like at 10 p.m. at night, you're like, okay, I made this many sales calls. I read this many pages in a book. I called this many people. I spent this many minutes with my family. I spent this, right? You don't take an hour at the end of your day to recollect everything that you did during the day, right? Like all of us would go nuts probably, right? So eventually those habits will fall off and you'll go back to who you were because you don't know how to live in the new place because metabolism and emotional eating. And these diets out there don't want to teach you that because if so, you'll leave them. You won't need them anymore. You'll literally be able to be like, bye Weight Watchers, I don't want to be a Weight Watcher for life. Or bye Beachbody, I might do your workout programs, but I don't want to follow all these crazy diets you keep giving me. Or bye Optavia, see you later, 3 meal things that I'm supposed to eat all day, right? Okay, those are just the top ones that come to my mind. So my thought process here with all of this is that you have these things that go through your head that are stopping you from getting a result, and not because those diets, quote unquote, don't work, but because you haven't changed you, okay? So this gets me down to your homework for today, okay? Here's your homework assignment. I'm actually looking at it, so if you see me read, I wanna make sure that I say it right, okay? These are the questions that I want you to ask. What food controls your emotions? Okay, so what I mean by that is when you get emotional, are there foods you reach to? Are there foods that you feel better eating? Okay, so both ways. Okay, when you're emotional, do you reach for a certain food? And when you're emotional, do you reach for a certain food? And do you ever feel better after eating a certain food? Okay, and if so, identify the foods, write them down, call them out, do that kind of thing. Okay, next. From this time today to the time tomorrow when we meet again, so almost 24 hours, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I want you to tally how many times you either say to yourself, eat this, not that. I need to portion control that. This is going to make my weight go up. I better weigh it on the scale. I better do X, Y, or Z, okay? So I want you to really be thinking about that. And it doesn't just have to be in the next 24 hours if you want to recollect what you've thought over the past couple of days. Because what you're doing here is you're controlling your emotions through different types of things. You're letting a scale dictate how good you are, whether it's the kitchen scale that's behind me or the scale in the bathroom, okay? It's allowing your body and your metabolism to fail you because you're not in control of any of that. All you are doing is doing all the other pieces, okay? So that is your homework assignment tonight. I will come back through and post those questions at the bottom of the Facebook and the LinkedIn Live so you can recopy them down if you want to. Outside of that, I encourage you, show back up tomorrow, okay? I get it. Everybody wants to be like, okay, day 1 was here, great, cool, whatever, okay? I have 2 more days of action, and if you actually want to learn food emotion code, you actually want to see results, you do want to come back, because it is life-changing and it will help you to get the results like Kristin. She lost 100 pounds and then 20 more on top of it. And she doesn't portion control anymore, okay? It's like me learning how chocolate can affect you. Do I eat chocolate? Yes, chocolate's in the freezer right now. It doesn't control me anymore. I'm able to say, yes, I want chocolate, or no, I don't. Do you want to be free? If so, learn more here, get more about the food emotion code and the Beat the Scale program, so that way you personally can get the results you want. Now, I will also link below a call link in case you would like to do a call to learn more about your food emotion code. Anybody that is live in these or watching the replay will get it. I will be taking down that link at the end of day 3. So really on day 4, I will be taking that down. And last but not least, day 4 is a live Q&A. It is just a Zoom call. So if you want to ask questions, I implore you to ask me for the Zoom link if you did not register so you can be live on that call. Outside of that, I look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you guys have a fit and fabulous day, and I will see you later. Looking for the end button. It was hidden. All right. Bye, guys.